I just want to touch on this additional thing which we talked about, which is approximate query processing, or the use of sampling technology. Like I said before, if your data set tends to be very large, let's say, in this case, our data set is relatively small, it's got 210 million records. What happens if the data set was billions and billions of records, and you really can't afford that memory? You don't want to pay that price of memory or the compute resources for a virtual database, virtual warehouse in this case. So what you can do is you can simply create sample tables. So think about sample tables as if they're like indexes on the data set that might be sitting at the source. So in this case, I'm creating, it's a simple set of extensions we have on top of SQL. Of course, we have a data frame API also. So you create a sample table. In this case, I'm essentially stratifying it on these three columns, and I'm saying, give me a sample that's just 1% of the full data set. And we supply access to the full data set simply using a subquery in this case, where I'm saying, hey, select these columns from airline. And as you noted probably before, airline is simply an external table pointing to a Parquet data source. And lo and behold, as you can see here, if I run start running my queries, what you'd see is that the query looks exactly like the query on the left, which is going after the full data set or the exact data set. The only difference on the right is that we have this with error clause. That is a signal to our engine to say, hey, if you have the relevant samples available, figure out which sample you can use. But the key restriction here that the user is placing is that he's saying, give me an answer back from the sample as long as the answer is at least 90% correct. So in other words, this with error of 0.1 says I can tolerate a 10% error. Of course, in this case, this query is giving you literally 100% correct answer, essentially saying that hey, the row count is 210 million, even though the real count inside the sample is just 2 million records. So it's a beautiful way to, or a very smart way to really build out high performance analytical applications, especially the ones that where you are visualizing your answers, your aggregations. Because as you can see here, even though the answer may not be 100% correct, visually you can never tell the difference. I mean, if you're looking for a pattern, this is a great way to essentially use synopsis. So here is another analytical query which we ran before, where I'm essentially finding out which are the airlines that have the most flights, right? Likewise, you'll see many queries I'm running where here it's taking 20 seconds instead of 1 second with the sample, all right?